say, when I originally heard I was going to be doing the history of China, I was very overwhelmed and concerned because it's something I knew absolutely nothing about. But I am completely fascinated by it now and can't get enough of the reading and the research of it. My husband is very afraid though, because every time I do more research, I find another place I need to visit in China. And he is very concerned and has been asking many questions about, do I really mean I'm going to visit? Do we need to start saving some money? But I am very thankful I ended up getting this topic because it is completely amazing. So today, we are doing early history of Buddhism from 250 to 420 CE. I am almost at Bodhidharma. I remember you had asked me last time, and I was going to talk about Bodhidharma, but then there were quite a few things within this time period I needed to hit first. So I don't want to spend a lot of time talking because I really want you guys to be able to get into small groups again, especially to go over that part of the Lotus Sutra. I thought it would be a really wonderful opportunity for you all to get in small groups. Possibly if you could get into different groups this time so you can get to know everybody, feel more comfortable talking. And then when we all come back together, if you can have one representative from your group that actually share what you came up with, that would be wonderful. So I'm going to go over this somewhat quickly, but it is very interesting. In 250 CE, there was a Turfan monk who translated the rules of priesthood. I could not find any more information on this man's name anywhere, but I did find out quite a bit of information about where Turfan was in China, and it's very important. It was a very important area in China because it was just north of the Silk Road. So it makes a lot of sense that so much of the activity was happening right around there. And on one of my slides coming up, I can show you a picture of what it looked like back in that time. It was a very fertile area, it was an oasis area, and it was a very important trade center. So when you do research on this area, you find out that it was just a booming area of trade and philosophy and thought. So although I couldn't find a lot of information out about this monk, I was able to see how this area was so important to the spread of Buddhism because of so many of the people that were going along the Silk Road. And I do have a map of it as well that I'll show you as soon as I'm done with this section. Excuse me. And then in 255 CE was the first Chinese translation of the Lotus Sutra, which we're going to talk about a little bit further down. And then you're going to get to talk about one chapter with the rest of your group. And then we have 260 CE, excuse me for my pronunciation, Dharma Rakasha, travels into Inner Asia, learning numerous languages. And here we come to that city again. Do you remember how often I talked about this city in the first class? Master Jigri, did you say that it was the equivalent of Washington, D.C. or New York City, the Logan? Do you all remember that the first class when he had said that? Because the city name kept on popping up. So it reminds me again of this big hubbub of activity that was going on back in this time. And then he actually settled in Luoyang and he presided over the translation of 165 Buddhist books, including the Nirvana Sutra, and went even farther, particularly into chapter 25 of the Lotus Sutra, which is why I thought that would be a great chapter for you all to read for many reasons. So you can get together with everyone else, you can become more comfortable with speaking, because part of being a teacher is speaking. And it's something some of you may not be comfortable with right now. So I think if you're able to do it in small groups first, it'll become much, much easier to then be able to talk individually and actually come up and do these groups that Caddy was speaking of. And he was a major contributor to making money on a text to make sense into Chinese. Let me make sure I didn't leave anything out. He came to Luoyang in 266, and it said that his efforts were key to many Chinese Buddhist conversions. So him coming to this area led to a lot of conversions of Buddhism. And then in 300 CE, there was translations by a non-Chinese monk of the Vimalakirti. Was I close? I was close. And the Lotus Sutras. And this particular sutra, the Vimalakirti, the sutra shows inclusiveness and respect of the non-clergy, as well as the equal role of Buddhist women, which we had talked about a lot in the first class as well. And there is a wonderful translation that I read. Any of you who know Uma Thurman, she is a very famous father as well. Robert, I think his first name is Robert Thurman, who actually translates and writes very good summaries of a lot of these sutras. And he actually, I was able to find his translation of this, and it's a really wonderful sutra for anyone who's interested. I feel like so many of these things, I could do a 40-minute Dharma talk just on that. There's just so much history, so much culture, but we have to go by it kind of quickly, so I do apologize for that. Okay, here's Turpin. It was also called Turpin. Can you see it on the map in the light blue? This was the area right around the time we were talking about in 300 CE. So it was a very beautiful oasis center. All of these different areas that are colored were huge in trade, art, culture, philosophy. And you can just see by looking at it how it was just, how close they were and connected, and they called it an oasis. So that's actually where it was. So, I don't know, I'm very visual, so I have to see pictures. So to give you an idea of where that was.
Turpin is actually very close to Tibet. It's around Qinghai area.
So we're at a high altitude here.
Yeah.
We're in the mountains, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're in the mountains.
You say Qinghai in...
You see like the area, you can see like the mountainous areas around it too.
Right.
And it's actually from back in this time. This is the picture from 300 CE. They had a whole bunch of maps of the modern day too, but this is right around the time, the 300 CE, where the translations were being done. They said it was a mountainous area, and then there was just this beautiful oasis area right in the center where people would just come to. And right, thank you. And just it was just a huge area of culture and arts and philosophy. Yes.
Were you able to zoom it out to see where it is right now in the bigger area?
I don't have that map, but I can get it. While Don's doing his stuff, because I was able to find a whole bunch of maps. I just particularly like this one because you're able to see it, back in the time. But I can easily do that to show you.
Please.
Sure. Make sure I do not leave anything out. Okay, this is something, we're coming up to something that Sharon hit on as well, which is very interesting. 250 CE, I already did this one. Hold on a second, I went the wrong way. Here we go. In 306 CE, there was a translation of the legend of Kinasafa. Do you remember Sharon talking about that earlier today? Very interesting how she was saying a very interesting person to read about. Before he was interested in Buddhism, he was very interested in acquiring land. It was very important to acquire as much of India as he possibly could. As we know, India is a very vast land. And he was the emperor. And it was during one of his wars, the War of Kalinga, which he actually started. And it said that he saw so many mass deaths at that time that it really affected him. And that's when he started to become Buddhist and really focus on how important Buddhism was and became dedicated to the propagation of it. Now remember, this was in India, as Sharon said. But in 306, there was actually a translation done in China to where Chinese were able to start learning about these Indian emperors as well.
Tracy, is
yes.
The same one who boasted to the Buddha about killing many people?
Don't think
Or was that
so.
somebody else?
That was the person.
Oh,
It's a different.
Okay.
this was actually the emperor in India, but he was around much farther back. The 306, not to get confusing, that's when an actual translation was done about him.
Okay.
So when you think about it, I always had to bring myself back in that time. There's a very good chance, unless someone came upon someone who is from India, you may not have ever known about these people in India and the different emperors. So once this translation was made, they were able to learn about things that were going on in India. Whereas now we're just so used to being able to find out. You know, I feel like with a lot of times with history, you have to put yourself back into that time to fully understand it. So he dedicated his life to the propagation of Buddhism, which I am imagining what it would be like in this day and age to have a Buddhist leader of a country. I think things may be very different than they are today. Amazing. And then we're back to the city Luoyang, and by 350 CE, there were already at least 42 pagodas in the area. And this is why my husband is afraid. 366 CE is the earliest documentation of a cave at Dongguan. And we will get into this as well. And I have some pictures for you all, for anyone who's never heard or seen these caves before. So yes, that is why he's afraid. I will get to that. And then at 400 to 413, it's Foxian's journey to India and back. All right, these are these caves at Dunhuang. They're called the Mogao Caves. The first caves were dug out around 366, and they were used as Buddhist meditation and worship centers. And now they have found a system of 492 caves, but there could be more. They're still excavating these. It's known as one of the finest places of Buddhist art that spans over 1,000 years. And for anyone who's interested in these UNESCO World Heritage Sites, I'm very interested in them. It became one in 1987, which is quite an honor. And just between, I think you and I were talking about that, how recently more caves have been discovered. Just between 1988 and 1995, an additional 248 caves were discovered. And so then that's where I said, can we take a field trip?
Didn't we visit? I thought that those caves were visited when people went to China. No?
No, they can be visited. They're actually tours. The recent trip, no, he said no.
Yeah, because when you open a cave, it's very easy to get oxidized. So they are thinking about closing some of the caves. So if you want to go and visit, it's better early than late.
No pressure, nobody's planning. And this is the location. This is the map of China. These are where these caves would be located. They're located very close to the Silk Road as well, which makes sense. People would be traveling along the Silk Road. Oh, sure.
So Patty can show us where Xi'an is and the different areas, and probably where Tufan is, right?
Yeah.
You know where it is.
Well, where are we? We're not in this map.
But Xi'an is
Xi'an is around this
Right
area.
there?
Yeah, around this area.
right.
Okay. Beijing, Xi'an, and then going west. This is one of the Great Walls. The Great Walls are all around. All around this area. The Dunhuang is almost the last stop. Then when you go at that time, when you go a little bit west, then it's already Middle East. So
But isn't Tufan on there? Tufan is not on the map. But it's
Tufan is an old Dunhuang is here. It's more in Tibet. Tufan is
Tibet, so Tibet is the south end.
a little bit
It's to the west.
to the west.
Right.
It's still, you're right. From what I saw on the map that I'll pull up, it's much more northwest China.
Right.
Because it did follow, like I said, the Silk Road.
Shenzhen.
Yeah.
I'll pull up the map so you
Xinjiang
guys can see.
is
Yeah.
here, around here, Xinjiang. Xinjiang is more south. They're right next to Tibet.
Turfan is maybe the Iber Autonomous Republic or the Uyghur Autonomous
Yeah, at the time.
today.
No. Is it open?
Where is Master? Master is here
I was going to put a map up there with all all the different provinces, but then it's so hard to actually zone in on what you want to see. So I wanted to give you an idea. This is definitely north but more west. And it does, if you remember the previous map I had of the Silk Road, it's right around that area. And then here are some pictures of the cave. The computer doesn't really do it justice. Remember, there are many, many caves, so these are just a few of the examples.
Oh, wow.
Very intricate. They actually, one of the caves is called the Library Cave. Has anyone heard of this particular cave? And it is, when they discovered it, it is filled with ancient Buddhist texts that were all rolled, you know, in there. Now they've moved quite a few of them, I'm sure, you know, and I don't think that one's open to the public. I would have to check, but the cave was filled with just rolls and rolls and rolls of Buddhist texts, which is quite amazing. And then here's another example. And you see all those tour people? That could be us. So I really wanted to take pictures of this just so you could see the scale. So these are examples of the caves we're talking about that span over 1,000 years, and they believe the first one was around 366 CE, which is really amazing for any of us who were born and raised in America, because when we hear something that was built in 1750 or 1800, we call it historic. But we could actually go visit somewhere that was built in 366. It's mind-boggling.
You're saying this is older than Mount Rushmore?
It is. And it's also older than the arch. Anyone that was confused.
Tracy, could you please go back
Sure.
2 more pictures? Okay, well, that would be sufficient. I don't know that if I need to remind you, or not remind, but I need to share with you. Actually, it's true. These are artificial lighting, am I right? It's in a cave, am I right?
Yes.
So what you see there is artificial. Imagine the person who at 336 CE to carve this. Think about that. What do they use in order to see having enough sight to carve?
And then just to think of how history is such a living thing, you know, how I said that some of them were just found in the 80s and 90s, to where there still could be some in existence now that we're not even aware of, which is just amazing. And like I said, they were used as meditation centers and places of worship. And then how I talked earlier, I just gave you a quick little blip. Baxian was a Chinese Buddhist monk who traveled to India, Sri Lanka, and what is today known as Nepal, between 399 and 412 to acquire Buddhist scriptures. He's most known for his pilgrimage to Lumbini, the birthplace of the Buddha, and he actually wrote a travel book of his journeys, which is on Amazon. Probably not his original, but you can actually pick this up on Amazon as well.
It's available in PDF. I have a file for it.
Yes, it's a translation. It's translated.
I have a file. If you're interested, I can send it or
Really?
post it for you.
Wonderful. And then just to get us back into the thinking of the group, the Lotus Sutra, because we had talked within this teaching about how it was translated right around the time we're talking about right now. In 255, it was translated from Sanskrit to Chinese. It's divided into several chapters, 3 principal themes. First one's all vehicles are one vehicle. There's 3 vehicles for nirvana. And basically the sutra is saying it's all one vehicle for which all beings can become Buddhists. Number 2 theme is all beings may become Buddhists. They have the potential to awaken to their true nature. And the third is Caddy hit on the importance of faith. The importance of faith and devotion as a means to realization of enlightenment. It's very exciting today listening to Sharon's talk, knowing part of that was going into mine, listening to Caddy's, knowing part of that was going into mine as well. And in particular, I told you all about the Sutra chapter 25, since that was translated within this time frame. He further translated it in 260, and the focus is on the Bodhisattva of compassion, which I think most of us are aware of. And this chapter was also circulated as an independent text. They believed that this chapter was so meaningful and had so much meaning in it that it could actually be independent. The this chapter, of the rest of them, although it is part of the sutra as well. And for anyone who's not aware going in, that is the Bodhisattva of compassion who perceives the sound of the world and hears the suffering of all living beings. And for anyone who read it, or all of you will read it when we get into the group, one of the people who I was reading about said a superficial reading of this chapter is very different than if you read it at a deeper level. Instead of superficial reading, you may believe in some external bodhisattva figure who's going to intervene and save you from any of the trouble you have. But there's a much deeper level to this sutra. So maybe the first time reading it, you may think that's what they're alluding to. So that's what I want you to do in your groups, is to not be superficial. So during group time, I'm hoping that you can reread chapter 25 of the Lotus Sutra aloud in your group. Did anyone make a copy of it? No, we'll use computers then. We can pull it up on my computer or anyone else that has a computer. So if one person in the group, it depends on how you all want to do it. If you want one person to read the chapter aloud, or if you all want to pull it up and read it from there, and then in your group discuss what you think the possible deeper meanings of the chapters are, and then we'll get that together, and you can have either, I don't know, either one person can report out, or maybe everyone could share something so then we could hear everyone's voice. Because it will be a great practice to getting you used to teaching. Sure. Sure, we can absolutely do that. Let me see if I can get it really quickly. Does anyone else already have it on their computer? Because I know a couple of people were looking for it. Do you have it as well, Sharon?
I'm having trouble logging into the network.
Okay.
I do have one copy from the library,
Oh, wonderful.
and I think Venerable Kunshi has gone to look for more.
Oh, wonderful.
We recite this at the Guanyin Pavilion every year.
Right.
So
Mhm.
in October, when we come to the Guanyin Pavilion, then we'll all be reciting this chapter.
We should be able to find it on Access to Insight, right?
We should.
What is the-
Access to Insight would only be the sutras, would not have the sutras. Yeah, we have.
Bhaktis of living beings who are undergoing all kinds of suffering hear of Guanxin Bodhisattva and recite his name single-mindedly. Guanxin Bodhisattva will immediately hear their voices and rescue them. If a person who upholds the name of Guanxin Bodhisattva enters a great fire, the fire will not burn him, all because of this Bodhisattva's awesome spiritual power. If a person being tossed about in the great sea calls out the Bodhisattva's name, he will find a shallow place. If the hundreds of thousands of myriads of kotis of beings who seek gold, silver, lapis lazuli, mother of pearl, carnelian, coral, amber, pearls, and so forth, enter the great sea, an evil wind may toss their boats into the territory of the Rakshasa ghosts. But if among them there is even one person who calls out the name of Guanxin Bodhisattva, they will all be saved from the difficulty of the Rakshasas. For this reason, he is called Guanxin. Further, if a person who is about to be harmed calls out the name of Guanxin Bodhisattva, the knives and staves of the attackers will break into pieces, and he will be saved. If yakshas and rakshasas enough to fill the 3,000 great thousand world system come to torment a person, if they hear him call out the name of Guanxin Bodhisattva, all those evil ghosts will not even be able to stare at that person with their evil eyes. How much the less harm him. If a person, whether guilty or not, who has been put in stocks or bound with chains calls out the name of Guanxin Bodhisattva, his fetters will break apart, and he will immediately be freed. If bandits enough to fill the 3,000 great thousand world system infest a dangerous road on which a merchant chief in charge of costly jewels is leading a group of merchants. But among the merchants there is even a single person who says, "Good men, do not be afraid. You should all single-mindedly recite the name of Guanxin Bodhisattva." This Bodhisattva bestows fearlessness upon living beings. If you recite his name, you shall surely be saved from these robbers. And if, upon hearing that, the merchants all cry out together, "Namo Guanxin Bodhisattva," then they will immediately be saved because they recited his name. Inexhaustible intention, the awesome spiritual power of the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva Guanxin, is as lofty and sublime as that. If living beings who have much sexual desire constantly and reverently recite the name of Guanxin Bodhisattva, they will be separated from desire. If those who have much hatred constantly and reverently recite the name of Guanxin Bodhisattva, they will be separated from hatred. If those who are very stupid constantly and reverently recite the name of Guanxin Bodhisattva, they will be separated from stupidity. Inexhaustible intention, Guanxin Bodhisattva has great awesome spiritual powers such as these and confers great benefits. Therefore, living beings should always be mindful of him. If women who seek sons bow and make offerings to Guanxin Bodhisattva, they will give birth to blessed, virtuous, and wise sons. If they seek daughters, they will give birth to upright and handsome daughters who have planted roots of virtue in previous lives and who are regarded and respected by all. Inexhaustible intention, Guanxin Bodhisattva has powers such as these. If there are living beings who reverently bow to Guanxin Bodhisattva, they will be blessed and their efforts will not be in vain. Therefore, living beings should all receive and uphold the name of Guanxin Bodhisattva. Inexhaustible intention, if a person were to receive and uphold the names of bodhisattvas in number as the grains of sands in 62 kotis of Ganges rivers, and in addition were to exhaustively make offerings to them of food, drink, clothing, bedding, and medicine, what do you think? Would that good man's or good woman's merit and virtue be great or not? Inexhaustible intention, Bodhisattva replied, "Very great, world-honored one." The Buddha said, if another person were to receive and uphold the name of Guanxin Bodhisattva and bow and make offerings but once, that person's blessings would be equal to and not different from the other person's. They could not be exhausted in hundreds of thousands of myriads of kotis of eons. Inexhaustible intention. One who receives and upholds the name of Guanxin Bodhisattva obtains the benefit of blessings and virtues as limitless and boundless as those. Would anybody else like to read? Or should I keep going?
I can, you go ahead.
Inexhaustible intention Bodhisattva said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, how does Guanxin Bodhisattva roam through this Saha world? How does he speak the Dharma for living beings? How does he carry out his work with the power of expedience?" The Buddha told Inexhaustible Intention Bodhisattva, "Good man, if living beings in this land must be saved by means of someone in the body of a Buddha, Guanxin Bodhisattva will manifest the body of Buddha and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone in the body of Pratika Buddha, he will manifest the body of a Pratika Buddha and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone in the body of a hearer, he will manifest in the body of a hearer and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone, the body of the Brahma king, he will manifest in the body of the Brahma king and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone in the body of Shakra, he will manifest in the body of Shakra and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone in the body of the God of sovereignty, he will manifest in the body of the God of sovereignty and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone in the body of the great God of sovereignty, he will manifest in the body of the great God of sovereignty and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone in the body of a great heavenly general, he will manifest in the body of a great heavenly general and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone in the body of Vajravana, he will manifest in the body of Vajravana and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone in the body of a minor king, he will manifest in the body of a minor king and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone in the body of an elder, he will manifest in the body of an elder and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone in the body of a layman, he will manifest in the body of a layman and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone in the body of a minister of state, he will manifest in the body of a minister of state and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone in the body of a Brahmin, he will manifest in the body of a Brahmin and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone in the body of Bhikshuni, Upashka, Upashika, he will manifest in the body of a Bhikshu, Bhikshuni, Upasaka, or Upashika and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by somebody in the body of a wife, of an elder, of a layman, of a minister of state, or of a Brahmin, he will manifest in a wife's body and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone in the body of a pure youth or pure youth maiden, he will manifest in the body of a pure youth or pure youth maiden and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone in the body of a heavenly dragon, Yakasha, Grandharva, Asura, Garuda, Kinara, Maharaga, human or non-human, and so forth, he will manifest in such a body and speak Dharma for them. If they must be saved by someone in the body of a Vajra welding spirit, he will manifest in the body of a Vajra welding spirit and speak Dharma for them. Inexhaustible intention. Guan Shen Bodhisattva has accomplished merit and virtue as this, and in all manners of forms roams throughout the land, saving and liberating living beings. Therefore you should all single-mindedly make offerings to Guan Shen Bodhisattva. Guan Shen Bodhisattva Masavata can, in the midst of fear, crisis, and hardship, bestow fearlessness. That is why in this Saha world we call him the bestower of fearlessness. Inexhaustible intention Bodhisattva said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, I shall now make an offering to Guan Shen Bodhisattva." He then removed his necklace of pearls, its value in hundreds of thousands of ounces of gold, and offered it to the Bodhisattva, saying, "Humane one, accept this Dharma offering, this necklace of precious pearls." Guan Shen Bodhisattva refused to accept it. Inexhaustible intention Bodhisattva again said to Guan Shen Bodhisattva, "Humane one, out of pity for us, accept this necklace." The Buddha then told Guan Shen Bodhisattva, "You should take pity on an inexhaustible intention Bodhisattva and the foretold assembly, as well as the gods, dragons, yakshas, grandharvas, asuras, garudas, kinnaras, maharagas, humans, non-humans, and so forth, and accept this necklace." Then out of the pity of the fourfold assembly, the gods, dragons, humans, non-humans, and so forth, Guan Shen Bodhisattva accepted the necklace. He divided it into two parts. One part he offered to Shakyamuni Buddha, and the other to the Stupa of Many Jewels Buddha. Inexhaustible intention, such is the self-mastery and spiritual power of Guan Shen Bodhisattva, who roams throughout the Saha world. At that time, the inexhaustible intention Bodhisattva used verses to ask this question. World-honored one, complete with wondrous works, I now ask again, why is this disciple of the Buddha called Guan Shen? The honored one of perfect wondrous marks with verses answered inexhaustible intention. Listen to the practice of Guan Yin, skillfully responds in all places. With vast vows as deep as the sea throughout inconceivable eons, he has served many thousands of quoits of Buddhas, and he has made great pure vows. I shall now tell you in brief that for those who hear his name or see him and who are mindful of his name unceasingly, he can extinguish the suffering of all realms of existence. If someone is the victim of another's harmful intent and is pushed into a pit of fire, if he evokes the strength of Kuan Yin, the pit of fire will turn into a pool. If someone is being tossed about in the great sea and is surrounded by the dangers of dragons, fish, and ghosts, if he evokes the strength of Kuan Yin, the waves will not drown him. If someone is on the peak of Mount Sumeru and another person tries to push him off, if he evokes the strength of Kuan Yin, he will stand firm as the sun in space. If someone is pursued by evil people who want to throw him off a Vajra mountain, if he evokes the strength of Kuan Yin, not a single hair on his body will be harmed. If someone is surrounded by vicious bandits who threaten him with knives, if he evokes the strength of Kuan Yin, the bandits will all give rise to compassion. If someone is in trouble with the law and the verge of being executed, if he evokes the strength of Kuan Yin, the knives will break into pieces. If someone is imprisoned, shackled, or chained, or if his hands and feet are in stocks, if he evokes the strength of Kuan Yin, his bonds will open and he will be set free. If someone is about to be harmed by mantras, spells, or poison, if he evokes the strength of Kuan Yin, the harm will all return to the sender. If someone meets with evil rakshas, poisonous dragons, or ghosts, if he evokes the strength of Kuan Yin, they will not dare to harm him. If the person is surrounded by vicious beasts with fearsome fangs and claws, if he evokes the strength of Kuan Yin, the beasts will quickly run far away. Poisonous snakes and scorpions have blazing lethal vapors, but if one evokes the strength of Kuan Yin, at the sound of one's voice, they will disperse. Clouds of roaring thunder and lightning may send down hail or great floods of rain, but if someone evokes the strength of Kuan Yin, the clouds will immediately scatter. Living beings are beset with hardships and opposed by limitless offerings. The power
Oppressed.
The power of Kuan Yin's wondrous wisdom can rescue the world from suffering. Complete with the power of spiritual penetrations, vastly cultivating wisdom and exponent meanings, going throughout countries in the 10 directions, he manifests everywhere in all places. The various evil destinies, those of the hells, ghosts, and animals, and the pain of birth, old age, sickness, and death are all gradually wiped away. True contemplator, pure contemplator, contemplator with vast great wisdom, compassionate contemplator, kind contemplator, may we constantly behold you with reverence. Undefiled, pure light, the sun of wisdom that breaks through the darkness, is able to quell calamities of wind and fire as it shines on all worlds. Compassionate substance, the thunder of precepts. A kind intent, a wondrous great cloud, he rains down sweet dew and dharma rain, which extinguish the flames of affliction. In the midst of contention, when faced with lawsuits, or when someone is terrified on the battlefield, if he evokes the strength of Kuan Yin, all his many enemies will scatter and leave. Wondrous your sound, contemplator of the world's sounds, a pure sound, a sound of the sea tide, a sound beyond all worldly sounds. We shall always bear it in mind. In thought after thought, we have no doubt. Guan Shin is pure and sagely. In times of suffering, agony, danger, and death, he is our refuge and protector. Complete with all merit and virtue, his kind eyes watching living beings is endowed with massive blessings, limitless as the sea. Therefore, we should reverently worship him. At the time, the Bodhisattva, guardian of the earth, rose from his seat and said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, if there are those who hear this chapter of Guan Shin Bodhisattva, who learn about the self-mastery of his deeds and the power of the spiritual penetrations as shown in this universal door, you should know that the merit and virtue of such people will not be small." When the Buddha had spoken the universal door chapter, 84,000 beings in the assembly all brought forth the resolve for Anis. And thank you.
Thank you for the 2 readers, wonderful. It's very long, but I think it's very powerful I especially have never heard it read out loud.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, within a big group as this, I have for the one, and so that was very powerful. We obviously don't have time for the group, and I don't want to go long and take up someone else's time. So maybe what we'll do is, since you have this link, is everyone able to go on to the website? Everyone has the code to get on? Okay. If you all go on before next time and read it to yourself, because I think it's a wonderful thing to read more than once. And then maybe poor Bodhidharma. Maybe we'll take part of next time where you can get together with the group, because I do like that part of it, you all being able to do that. So I'll post that also, but just if you can read it again and then be prepared to talk about it next time. What you're focusing on is what the possible deeper meanings of this is. As the person said, if you just read it superficially, it may look like you're looking for this one Bodhisattva to come in and save you, but there is a deeper meaning to it. Any questions?
Yes. It seems like, maybe this is just a result of a superficial reading, that it's saying that injustice doesn't exist. That's what it seems like when I hear some of those words.
And my idea to that is to, when you're at home and you read that again, write down that thought, and then when you can get into your group, that's something that you all can discuss, because someone else might have a different interpretation. Does that make sense? Rather than just hear one of our answers, it would be really interesting to hear what the rest of your group thinks about that. Okay? Thank you all very much. Thank you especially to the leaders.
But of course we know that there's nothing to be attained. But all the Diamond Sutra and the Heart Sutra talk about this highest level.
And what is a koti?
I have no idea.
K-O-T-I.
I think it's probably a designation of a great collection,
Miles or something.
right, something like that.
Oh, Don, I have a question for you. The word that I cannot pronounce there, Anatutara.
Anatara Samyak Sambodhi.
Is that where Tara comes from then?
No.
No, okay,
No.
because I saw the end of that and I thought, oh, I wonder, because if it means somebody very enlightened and you have Tara.
The Guan Shi Yin Bodhisattva Kusa in the Tibetan tradition looked upon the world and saw great suffering.
Right.
And so two tears came out of his
One was
eyes,
Tara.
and one was white Tara and one was green Tara.
Okay.
But that's Tibetan tradition.
Okay.
Right. So white Tara is pictured in the full lotus with 7 eyes. Is this right? 7 eyes.
Well, I know green Tara has the light down.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
half
6,
lotus.
7 eyes, and then green Tara has the right leg getting ready for action. But this is just in Tibetan. So Huan Shi Yin Pusa. Right. So Shi is a title. So when is that this right? This is it's a title of teacher. Shi.
No, actually, Shi is world.
Oh, really? Different characters.
Like Gong Su.
And in the Pali language, it's
That is.
Loke, L-O-K-E.
Oh. I have to brush up on my Chinese. So I always considered that differently. Okay. Very good. Really, she makes it very clear. Okay. So Are we taking a break?
Yes, we'll have a little break,
Yeah.
10-minute break.
10-minute break and then somebody's
Where
going to talk?
Turfon is in that map, we're again in that northwest area. I wish I could put the two on top of each other because I'm thinking where those caves are very close. I mean, I think they're extremely close to it. Do you remember the last slide I showed of the Dunkawan?
No, Rohan is more up here. It's pretty far. It's a long walk.
Okay. So that two trips we have to take? Or could we do it all in one trip?
Yeah, so here's Chengdu, and this is Xi'an. Right.
Beijing.
And the caves are in Xi'an?
No, the caves are where they originally
The
pointed.
terracotta soldiers are here.
Oh, okay.
Those
I
are
got it.
terracotta soldiers.
I want to see that.
And you know the Manchuria, Wenshu.
Oh.
No, I'm sorry, the other one. Fujian. Samagaba is in Chengdu area that we visited. And here, let's see, here is,
Where's the airman? Airman flight.
Meisan is here, Chengdu near Chengdu.
Right.
Okay. And then the Guanyin is around, let's see, where is Shanghai here. Toshan is here. And then, around here is Zhouhuashan, it's the Bizang. And there is a yellow mountain here, it's really beautiful, yellow mountain. And the Chinese official Buddhist college is in Beijing. Okay?
Save money now. Save money now.
Enjoy. And you're talking about Huineng's body, it's around here.
Women's
So
body.
Huineng's body,
is where?
it's around here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I see the ball.
Okay?
Okay. And I can put my PowerPoints if you guys, because I know I've been having a whole bunch of maps.
That's a good map. That's
Yeah, so I
excellent.
can put these PowerPoints on here. Well, all the maps I'm downloading, I'm making sure just focusing on one area, because if you focus on too big of a China map, you can't find what you're trying to look for. So I can put all these on here, because I think if you go back to my original map of the Silk Road, you'll know it makes all the more sense in the world, because this Turfon area is not near a big river or anything, but then once you know about the Silk Road, you're like, it's just, anyone who loves history, this is all what it is.
Thank you, Tracy.